for this legislative session. I thought that we would just start by, we'll start by explaining that we're having problems with the documents appearing. And our assistants don't have the control that they would like to have as far as releasing that. So that would be fine. I'm assuming you're talking about committee rules and the guidelines. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get that. So we will start. We're going to start off with just a little bit of introduction as far as our committee members, and let's start with our support staff. So we'll start with the person that's going to try and keep us all organized, and that is our committee assistant. So grab the mic and introduce yourself, please.
This is not in my job description. I'm Cindy Rexer, and I am the committee assistant for the third year.
My name is Tamara Lawrence, and I'm with the Revisor of Statutes office.
Thank you. Okay, and our technician there?
My name is Charlie Peters. I'm the AV technician for this current meeting.
And Charlie, are you going to be with us on a regular basis?
We don't have that decided yet, but I could be.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Thank you very much. And why don't we just go ahead and go around the room with our committee members.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Senator Beverly Gossage from District 9, which is in Johnson County and butts up against Douglas County. And it's all of DeSoto, a little bit of Olathe, northern part of Gardner, part of Shawnee, a little bit of Lenexa, a large district. And I'm very pleased to be part of the Education Committee, as I am a former teacher and district manager for Sylvan Learning Centers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
My name is Gene Solontrop. I'm from the 27th Senate District, South Central Kansas, West Sedgwick County, West Wichita. This will be my 13th session. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Senator Brenda Dietrich. I represent the 20th Senate District, which is southwest Topeka and a few precincts in Wabunsee County. I'm a former educator. After about 40 years, I decided to retire. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Senator Kristen O'Shea, District 18, which I like to brag that we're sitting in District 18 right now. Central North Topeka over to Wamego.
Okay, and our vice chair has a tickle in her throat, so she's seeking water. Usually we have water here, but not today. So we'll await her to return. I am Senator Molly Baumgardner. This is my 6th year to be chair of Senate Education. I too am a former educator at the high school level as well as at the community college level. We are waiting for copies of the committee rules, and while we wait for those, I will ask at this time, are there any bill introductions? Yes.
Don't have a bill introduction, but I was able to pull up the documents online.
Okay.
If you go to the documents, Madam Chair, you do have 21 online.
Okay. We'll wait for those because we did revise them. And one of the things that is in the document is, since we still have people that will be attending and participating virtually, when we call on you to ask a question or to speak, they are asking that you introduce yourself, at least by name, before you pose the question. Now that our vice chair is here, if you want to give a brief introduction.
My apologies, Madam Chair.
No problem.
Renee Erickson, Senate District 30, which is East Wichita. Welcome back. Look forward to a productive session.
Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to go back to introduction of bills, and I do have a bill RS number, it's 22 RS 2372. And I'm introducing it to see if we would like to make it a committee bill. This is a trailer bill for the Kansas Promise Scholarship Program. And so what it does is the Promise Program, the Promise Scholarship has been in effect since July 1. And community colleges, technical colleges, as well as the not-for-profit privates have been awarding students the scholarship. We have found that there are some issues that need to get resolved. Some of it is the interpretation that schools and legislature made, that K-Board does not want to honor that interpretation. So we're working to codify so that it's quite clear just exactly what we mean with regard to a part-time student, and things like that. So it would be what we often refer to as a cleanup bill. So do I have a motion to accept this as a committee bill? I see a hand. Yes, a motion from Senator Dietrich, and I have a second from Senator O'Shea. And so we will now, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? That does pass unanimously, and so that will be our first committee bill. Hopefully we can get this bill read in. It is my hope that it will be the first bill that we work, and so anticipate that we will have discussion about it. If you would please give that to Reviser, because that's her edited portion. So I will be making sure that we schedule and start discussion next week. Hopefully we can actually have the hearing, but we need to get it read in and so forth. But we will have a discussion about that. And as soon as it's given a bill number, it will be available for everyone to see as well. Are there any other bill introductions? Seeing none, we will now look at the committee rules. And just want to review a few things. There are a few changes and additions that we put in there. One of the things is to just make sure as we are working through our bills, when we have our working sessions, that we are staying on the subject matter of the agenda. I know that sometimes when we have guests that come in, it kind of deviates into a variety of different discussions. So even though we did have school counselors and school psychologists and school social workers last year that participated virtually, somehow it did deviate into a discussion about Medicaid expansion. So we're going to make sure that we just kind of stay on track so that we are moving forward and sticking with the issues that are applicable with regard to the pre-K through 12 education as well as higher education. I am asking that once we have worked a bill and we are voting to move it out of committee, that we just go ahead and reserve those explanation of votes for when we're on the Senate floor. I think it's going to, one of the things that we've always had in this committee is I feel that people were not pressured to vote a certain way. So just vote your district that you represent or the belief that you represent, and then if it comes above the line, then it can be debated on the floor. And I absolutely welcome your discussions to continue for that. I will give the committee a few moments to look at this. I know that we have some great attendance today, which I appreciate. So there are guidelines for conferees. We do ask that electronic testimony that you provide, it needs to get to our committee assistant, to Cindy Rexer. It needs to get to her the noon prior. So if we're having a hearing on Monday, guess what? She's got to have it by noon Friday. Same thing if we're having, if you want to get that testimony in for a bill, today's Tuesday, so if we were having a hearing on a bill tomorrow, she would have already needed to receive that, because it really does take time and effort for her to get it uploaded Now, what we would love to have with our system, that as soon as she uploaded, it was available to everyone. We're finding that it's not working that quickly. So for committee members, if you are unable to see the bill or see testimony, touch base with Cindy. But always, you should be able to see the bill by the bill number once that gets read in and assigned a number. Okay. So Cindy just reminded us that she emailed you the documents today, so you already have those copies. We did also include the memorandum that we received from our Senate President, and that has to do with the virtual testimony, submitting written testimony, so no one is required to print those 30-some copies. Also has the guidelines for member participation if it's remote. Now, we know that this is flu season. We know that COVID is still working its way around. So, of course, we would love for you to participate virtually if you can't be here in person. I've had that same discussion with our member from Legislative Research as well as our reviser. So there are definitely going to be times that they are working from their office. And, you know, the safety and security of everyone is, to me, our top priority. So don't feel that you must be here. Particularly, we really like you, but don't be here if you're sick. So don't come here, just visit us online. And if that's the situation where you're going to be virtual, just make sure, at least for committee members, that you let Cindy know. I have down that we will, it was my belief that we would vote on approving the guidelines for conferees as well as the committee rules tomorrow when we meet. There is one other piece of business that I want to share with the committee, and that has to do with our State Board of Education. Leaders of the Senate as well as the House Education Committee did meet with the State Board of Education a couple of months ago. And we had some very frank discussion. Some of it, I think, was a little bit more frank than at the time they wanted to hear. But that discussion has continued. I did meet with them again at last month's meeting. And one of the things that the State Board of Education members are wanting is a little bit more ongoing communication with legislators. And so one of the things that we did propose is that we will come up with 1 or 2 days per month where we will just have a brown bag table. So Cindy will reserve the room. We'll make sure that not only committee members, but particularly that all legislators are aware of when these different brown bag meetings are. However, from the standpoint of COMA, we will need to make sure that we do not have a majority of our committee sitting in. Same thing is true with the House members. So it will be open to all, but we need to make sure that we do not have a majority. We are just going to have informal discussion about different education issues. To give you an example of an issue, it is one that was agreed upon at the end of our joint House and Senate education meeting, the interim meeting that occurred, I think it was the first week of December, where we did identify one shared goal that the legislature as well as the State Board of Education would work toward. And that one stated agreed upon goal is that all third graders will read at third grade level before being moved and advanced on to the fourth grade. Now, part of that discussion was that obviously that doesn't rest that obligation just on the shoulder of the third grade instructor. There's all kinds of folks that are involved in developing that learning or that reading ability. So we're going to have kindergarten, first and second grade teachers also working and helping us achieve that goal. But part of the discussion was just how significant it is for third graders to be able to read at grade level. And part of what was shared during that hearing was more than 50% of kids that don't read at third grade level, when they're in third grade, never move on beyond high school. And in fact, many of those kids don't complete high school. Reading is so foundational in the learning process. As the kids move to fourth and fifth grade, they are required to have more reading skills for their lessons. Absolutely have to have those reading skills because most of that learning that is done by the time they're in middle school and high school is dependent on reading, but also that significant impact that it has on mathematics, because by fourth and fifth grade, they're starting to do those wonderful things called word problems in math. We also know that there's some other things that have to be in place. So what is being done for identifying kids with dyslexia and other developmental reading issues? That has to be done before third grade. And so one of the things that we will continue to be talking about and looking toward is how exactly it is that we can make sure that our third graders can achieve that reading level before they move on, but also what are the tools that are available to schools. And so, one of the things that we'll be looking at, and I think for those of you that were on the committee last year, you're going to remember, we did have the presentation from the University of Kansas, the gentleman who, in his department, they prepare the state assessments. And I think you'll remember that he shared with us that for free, every school district can access those pre-assessments. They can take, I believe, I'll need to double check, it's 3 or 4 assessments before they actually take that state assessment. Now, why that's significant is because, again, when we had that joint interim meeting, we had one of the administrators from the Wichita School District came and testified. And part of what he shared is just this last year was the first time that Wichita School District started using those pre-assessment tools. So we want to make sure to shout loud and clear, every school district utilize those pre-assessment tools. I did attend a state board, or not a state board, but a local school board meeting last night. And the question was asked, so with this year's kids, how much from that learning from the year prior, or even years prior, so when we're talking about high school kids, we have their state assessment from perhaps when they were middle school, but how much loss has occurred? And they indicated they weren't sure. Well, guess what? With those pre-assessments, they would be able to, that would be one instrument that would help them that very first quarter of the school year back in fall would have helped them identify exactly where those kids are. So we will continue to look at what that utilization is. And I see that we have representation here from the KNEA. I don't know, do I have anyone here from KASB? Oh, there we go. Wonderful. So we're going to continue to need help and support from these different organizations. For those of you that represent specific school districts, make sure that they're using these tools because, again, ACT, pre-ACT, that's all been made available for high school kids for free. And so we want to know, we want to dig into what are school districts using that information. So once those freshmen took that pre-ACT, what did they do? What did the district do once those results came in for those kids? So what type of remediation is being done so that by the time they take that ACT their junior year, we're showing that growth and development. So I'm going to pause right there. I think, does my vice chair have something to add? Because you were also in that joint meeting. So please share about that discussion.
Madam Chair, I think you did an excellent job of giving an overview of what was discussed, the goal that came out of that, and how we can work together. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. And we will continue to, we might touch on that. I'm not certain if there's going to be any pieces of legislation. I know that I've been asked even A little bit earlier today, I received an email from a reporter for the Kansas City Star wanting to know specifically what CRT bills are we going to be addressing in this committee. We will only address the bills that come to our committee. And so far, we have some bills left over from last year. And then we have the bill that was just introduced, and it's Promise Scholarship. So as those bills come to our committee, then we'll work through to get those addressed. Are there any questions from committee members? Yes, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just scanning the audience to see if we had any of the Board of Regents folks here. So part of that dyslexia, I don't see any.
I'm not seeing any.
Oh, Heather's from community. So one of the things that we talked about last year with the dyslexia and a piece, and there was a report that was done at the end of November, I think, or 1st of December, is what is higher ed doing with their pre-service training for teachers, so that as we hire new teachers, they know immediately what to do in the classroom to be able to assess these, reading deficiencies. So do you think when Kansas Board of Regents comes, we could ask that question without catching them off guard?
We will make sure that they know.
Thank you.
But I am absolutely with you on that. I think you guys will remember that last year we tried to develop an incentive, and that was we were going to set aside $30,000. So whatever universities, from Regents institutions started that specific training within the elementary ed certification area, we get to use that grant money. And, what we learned is none of our Regents institutions were offering that instruction yet. They weren't focused on that instruction. And so hopefully they're starting that. But what I gathered from several of the institutions, that Reading Ready was only going to be one portion of what they shared. So that's something that we're going to have to just keep talking about. But we will look to see. I've not seen that report. You've seen a draft. Okay, so hopefully that will get finalized. We're also supposed to get a report card on foster kids. That's not been completed yet. They're still working on that. So those are two things that we will definitely be addressing. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Senator Gossage.
A quick question, and perhaps this was addressed, but it seems to me that we passed something that would allow an appointment of or a hiring of the autism position, an autism director, something of that nature. Where is that at this stage?
Okay. We'll need to get some clarification from Dr. Nunswander when he's here tomorrow, but what we did do is we authorized funding down for the Center of Learning down at Pitt State so that they would have a coordinator that would be working on making a complete listing of available support materials for school districts to use, as well as working on expanding Train the Trainer. And so it's my understanding that, yes, they did in fact hire someone and that they have been very active working on that. It's also, I am thinking that I was told that they did hire a state director, but I've not seen a name, and so I don't know who that individual is. But I think we'll make sure that Dr. Nunswander knows that he's going to need to address that tomorrow for us. Okay? Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, committee.